What's going on, guys? It's Angler FG. I'm here to talk to you today about the 5 things I see people doing causing them not to catch fish. Now we're gonna run into those reasons right now. Now, thing number 1, you're out there and you're fishing without direction or intention. And what I mean by that is you just go out on the water, you find a pier, a shore spot, maybe you put your boat on anchor and you just soak a line, sitting there waiting, hoping that the fish will come to you. What I would say that you need to start doing, if you think this might be you, is to go out there, have a plan, pay attention to the tides, the weather, pay attention to the water temperature, check your online fishing reports. A great way to do this is social media. Probably in your area, there's a Facebook group where local anglers share their catches and see what they were doing. When were they out there? What was the tide? What was the water temperature? Now, don't go asking these guys for just their honey holes, because a lot of them aren't gonna give them to you, but you'll find a lot of them be more than happy to tell you what bait they caught it on, what the tide was, the water temperature if they knew it, and you can go out there and try to find similar conditions for yourself in your own spot. Another great thing is you gotta have a tide chart app. You need to pay attention to those tides, what they're doing, not only when you're going out fishing, but look at what it was when you caught fish. Another great app is you need to get an app to look at the NOAA buoys. There's an array of buoys along the coast. These things give you water temperature, wind speed, a lot of great data. So whenever you hop on these apps, you'll look and you can see what the water temperature is in certain areas, what the wind is in certain areas, and pay attention to the conditions that other anglers are catching fish and the conditions where you're catching fish, and try to time your trips and be out there at those spots during those conditions. Let's get to number 2, and I don't want y'all getting sensitive on me if this is you, because it was me too at one point. And the fact is, your tackle is just too heavy. You go to inshore saltwater fish and maybe you've never done it before. You're coming from the bass fishing world, or maybe this is what you saw your dad doing when you grew up. You're thinking, man, I could catch a huge shark. I could catch a 40-inch redfish. So you go out to Walmart and you pick up a 5,000, 6,000 size reel with an 8-9 foot tall, heavy power rod, super thick fiberglass, no sensitivity whatsoever. And you go out there with that because you want to be prepared. I will tell you what you need to do is you need to downgrade your tackle. Just about every species of inshore saltwater fish that we have, that you're gonna run across, that you're pursuing, is gonna be able to be caught on a 3,000 size reel and a medium action 7-foot rod. String it up with 15 or 20 pound braid. That is the tackle that you need. Light line allows your bait to move more naturally. It also allows you to cast further and feel a strike better. I've caught 35, 40-inch redfish on this tackle. I've caught sharks on this tackle. I've caught large stingrays on this tackle. And the reality of it is that most of the fish that you're catching are going to be in the 2 to 6 pound range. And the bad thing about this super large rod is that you need to be actively fishing. And if you have a setup that's too heavy, you're not gonna wanna cast a lure 50, 60 times. The temptation to just put a bottom rig on and let that bait soak is gonna be too much. All right, mistake number 3. You got no confidence in lures. I felt the same way for a long time, but let me tell you something. Lures work. If you find feeding fish, they work. And the irony of this is a lot of guys will go out there and they will soak a bait for 4, 5 hours, not catching anything, or maybe just catching some small trash fish, but they fish a lure for 10 minutes and don't get a bite and they just stop. You really need to train yourself to just stick to it. Whenever you start catching fish on a lure, you're going to get confidence in it, and you're gonna feel the same way about that lure that you do about your bait. And when you're fishing that lure, that's gonna allow something you never could do with your bait, is put a active presentation in front of fish, moving around to different spots, checking every piece of the water column, checking everything in the surrounding area, and put a good presentation, and that's gonna increase your odds of a strike. Bottom fishing bait just cannot do that. It cannot cover the ground and all the different aspects of the water column that a lure can. All right, guys, common mistake number 4. You are fishing the wrong rig. And I know this has been touched on before, but those double bottom drop, super heavy wire Taurus rigs that you find at Walmart, they are no good. Get rid of them. There is no place that you need to be fishing that rig. I will tell you, if you're inshore fishing on the Eastern Gulf Coast, what you need to be fishing 9 times out of 10 is either a jig head, usually anywhere from about a 3/8 down to an 1/8 ounce jig head, a Carolina rig with as light a weight as you can get away with and hold the bottom, or a popping cork. The popping cork is an absolute weapon. Whether you're fishing a live bait under it, or whether you're popping it with a shrimp imitation or even a paddle tail, the popping cork catches fish. Carolina rig is an excellent way to either actively fish a paddle tail or cover some ground on the bottom with a live bait. Now, a jig head, it's the angler's ultimate weapon. You can fish shrimp on this, you can fish fiddler crabs, bait fish, gulp, any type of soft plastic. If I had to choose one thing to have in my tackle box, it would be fluorocarbon leader in 1/4 ounce, 1/8 ounce, and 3/8 ounce jig heads. Those 3 jig heads are gonna cover 99% of all of your needs whenever you're inshore fishing. Now, there's a lot of other ways to catch fish, but I will tell you these are proven methods that work. Mistake number 5, and probably the biggest one I see guys making, is not learning from their own mistakes and successes. Every time that you catch a fish, you need to be paying attention to the conditions in which you caught those fish in that spot. I can't stress that enough. It's going to be specific to every spot. What was the tide? What was the water temperature? What was the tide and water temperature in the 2 to 3 days leading up to that? What was the weather like? Was the water dirty? Was it clear? Pay attention to every little detail that could affect the fish. Was it glassed over? Was it choppy? Was there bait? Was there structure? What kind of structure? Was it rocks? Was it oyster shells? And the reason you pay attention to these things is so you can try to emulate that in the future. Same thing if you don't catch fish. Try to avoid spots like that during those conditions.
All right, guys, so those are the top mistakes I see anglers making. Hopefully it helped you out. If you learned something, make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see some content of me kayak fishing, you check this video out right here, and I'll see you guys next time out on the water.